Shut up and sit down.
That's awesome.
Hey, it's where the big boys play. SICW.
That's right, everybody. You heard the Texan on the intro. SICW is where the big boys play, but the Squid Read podcast is where the legends stay. And everybody who watches is a legend of. Episode number 71. We have Big Texan Jim Hoffarth and Belleville's own Bobby D. How's it going, guys?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Doing all right. How you guys surviving in the heat wave in the whole St. Louis area?
Not too bad. I stayed mostly indoors, did some doctor's appointments, went to the pool for a couple hours, but AC for me.
That's got to be rough. Got to be rough.
Most of the time was in the AC today, except for it was a very long day because we got called back into work to try to help seniors out. There was a senior living center that didn't have AC, so we brought them AC tonight. I had to go fetch a generator, very big generator, one of those tow-behind generators, and got some AC units that plug into the generator and able to get them some AC. But that took us until about 8:30 tonight. So it was a very long day. But, you know, it's just, it's been one of those weekends or weeks. I don't know if you guys, well, Bobby brought it up. My son's car got stolen last night. And, you know, besides that, you know, we just buried my grandmother this weekend. And then I got my car back, and the paint job from the accident doesn't even match the regular paint on the car. So it's just been one of those crazy weekends. But yeah, so my son, you know, he signed up for Planet Fitness yesterday and went there for the first day. And 3 hoodlums came in, I guess, with hoodies on. And the Planet Fitness security sucks ass. Because they didn't have to scan to open the door. They just walked right in. There was no one working the counter, so they just continued to walk in. You know, not that they had to scan their keychain and a key fob on the desk or anything. They just walked in and busted open some locks in the locker room, stole 6 sets of keys. Walked out. I guess they hit the buttons on the keys to find out what cars they were and stole 3 of the cars. And my son's was one of them. And like I said, you know, Planet Fitness, you know, supposedly the manager and someone up higher up than them has called my son to talk about it. But I tell you, some shit needs to change over there. You know, they either need to keep the doors locked and you have to scan to get in, or keep someone at the front desk to see these people walk in, because they hit the Fairy Heights Planet Fitness yesterday during the day. Edwardsville was where my son was, so they hit that one last night. They hit a Club Fitness this morning. So it looks like all these fitness centers that are big chained, you know, like a Planet Fitness or the other one I mentioned, they really need to crack down. My personal gym, you have to scan to even open the door.
Yeah, the Club Fitness here that I belong to.
Yeah.
This one up here, you have to use your cell phone to scan to open it. But I'm going to be with that one anyway, because although it's clean and the staff is friendly, they don't give a crap about people setting up and cordoning off sections of the gym for recording for their social media shit. And you're walking around concentrating on your workout. That's the slowest workout I've ever had. Even, Jim, when you and I were going there and working out, this one I was there for 4.5 hours because you just had guys over here and I would walk. Yeah, you couldn't access anything. And then they would talk to me, and you know me, I have zero fear, and I told them go home and do that shit. But moving.
Well,
So I'm going to be sending a letter, quitting that one because there's better ones out there.
oh yeah, there is. But let's get out of that mood. Let's get into some better mood. Like last week, I want to start off with we did pull in a couple more subscribers. So I was liking that. Hopefully, if you like this content, like I said every week, please like, subscribe, and share. And please comment. Let us know what you disliked, what you liked, what we can do better. I would like to put in that last week I got a lot of good feedback about Jeremy and going into the Hall of Fame. On Facebook, there's a little bit negative comments coming on, not about the podcast. There was some negative talk about Jeremy personally going into the Hall of Fame. So that was kind of wiped from Facebook because, you know, I don't want any of that. You know, this is a Hall of Fame that, you know, just like ours, the St. Louis Hall of Fame is for the legends that wrestled at the Chase. The Independent St. Louis Hall of Fame is for the independent wrestlers. And, you know, I feel the criteria is if you put your blood, sweat, and tears into this business and you've retired from it and you put more than 20, 25 years into this business, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And I clearly stand behind Jeremy Lightfoot going into the Hall of Fame. It was a friend of the podcast, so I don't want to mention names and I don't want to go any further. But his remark has been since taken off. I don't know if he did it himself or someone did it, but it's one of those things. But I don't want to go into any
negative comments about the podcast. What did they say about us?
I mean, they liked the podcast. They felt that Jeremy deserved, you know, the hour and a half or so that we gave him to be celebrated. And a lot of people that we had on the podcast previously was talking about it and, you know, promoted it and shared it to a lot of people. So, hoping that one, we get back into the algorithm. I don't want to get too involved in the WWE bullshit, but hopefully that goes away and we get our subscriber count back up and get our shares going. So that can only help is if you guys out there like this stuff, share it, comment on it, and get us going again. You know,
that's great, and that's the reason why I haven't put out any of the Legends matches that we have in queue because of the shadow ban, because of our feud with WWE. They're getting 2, 3, and 4 views, and that's absolutely disgraceful. My first.
So, keeping on the lines of the last few weeks, how we've been talking about the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame and our Fan Fest. And then talking about the St. Louis Independent Hall of Fame with Jim Harris. And then last week, talking to one of the people that are going in next year, Jeremy Lightfoot. I figured we would talk about another Hall of Fame that I'll actually be going to. I'm leaving for it on Thursday. So when this airs, I'll actually be on the road going to it. But it's the George Tragos Thesz Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and that's in Waterloo, Iowa. And you can look that up, or you can even look up, because this one building shares 2 Hall of Fames. It's actually the National Wrestling Hall of Fame's Dan Gable Museum. And inside the museum is the George Tragos Thesz Wrestling Hall of Fame. So it's, you know, it's everything that we talk about in this podcast. You know, how we talked to Bobby about how he teaches wrestling, but it's the Greco-Roman or the freestyle, or there's one other one, the other style.
Folk style.
Okay, so it's that half, and there's in this building, there's one half that's just dedicated to that stuff. But a lot of professional wrestlers came from that. So they also celebrate Brock Lesnar in both. They celebrate Kurt Angle in both. This is a video that I took last year, and this is on the professional wrestling side. This Hall of Fame has got a lot of stuff going for it. It's got Lou Thesz's original World Championship belt. And I talked about it last time on the podcast, last year around this time, about how small that belt was. But all the belts were kind of small back then. And it's got Harley Race's boots in it. It's got Thunderbolt Patterson's boots in it, who, if you paid attention to this year's WWE Hall of Fame, Thunderbolt Patterson went into that Hall of Fame as well. It's got so many neat, cool things in this Hall of Fame, and they got so much stuff that they can't put it all out there. So they do rotate things in and out to showcase. So I'm kind of looking forward to this year and what they rotated in and out, because this place has a full basement. Sorry, got something going on in my eye here.
No, I love that display, the little mini ring. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
What are some of the names on there? Do you remember?
What?
You remember some of the names on there?
That
looks like I just saw Stan Hansen.
Yeah, that's most of the people that are in the Hall of Fame. They signed that. On that, so you got people like Vern Gagne, Dick Hutton.
Right there, that was a pretty. You just scrolled past. There's a pretty updated singlet there with Gable Stevenson.
Yeah, George Stretcher. Of course, Lou Thesz, Ed Stringler Lewis, Frank Gotch, George Tragos. It's got some of the newer guys. Both Funks. Terry and his brother Gene Kaninsky. Ooh, man, I screwed that up. George Hackenschmidt, Mad Dog Rashawn. Jack Briscoe, Baron von Raschke, which is a St. Louis fan favorite. We
got a glimpse of old Gary Jackson in the background on there too.
Probably because Gary did go there with us last year. Bret the Hitman Hart, Larry Henning, like I said, Dory Funk, Iron Mike DiBiase. The list goes on and on.
Don Seven.
So this Hall of Fame, there's 7 different categories, and they all got a title. So Lou Thesz Award goes. Well, let me just read it off here real quick. Let's see here, because I think this is so cool how they break every award down here on this piece of paper once I get to the right sheet.
Harley has that scowl no matter what picture, what engraving, always the same scowl.
Yeah, so those are all the plaques. Those are all the plaques that from all the Hall of Famers. Well, let's go with the Frank Gotch Award. Named after the Hall of Fame inductee Frank Gotch, this award honors people in professional wrestling who brought positive recognition to the industry through work outside of the industry. And the Frank Gotch Award is going to Arn Anderson this year. So Arn Anderson and his son is coming up there this year. One for Arn Anderson to accept this award, but also Brock Anderson is his son. And so how it goes is Thursday when you get up there, they do this banquet. It's not really a banquet. It's more of a gathering. They feed you. They give you drinks. they get you all into a room and they tell you how this weekend's going to go. And then later on, they do like this podcast with Jerry Briscoe. And you can sit there and ask questions to Jerry. And then the next day, it starts off in the day, and then there's more podcasts that you can go to. Then there's a legend autograph signing that you can meet the legends that are going to be there this year. That's a picture of most of the legends that's going to be there. And then that night is, which would be Friday, is a banquet dinner. And that's people that are going into the Hall of Fame this year. And it's a nice, fancy, sit-down, suit and tie type of dinner. So we get to eat a fancy dinner, get to watch these people get inducted, and then Saturday is a wrestling show that they put on. And of course, I'll be actually wrestling in it this week, so that's gonna be cool. But Brock Anderson is going against Wes Briscoe. So that's Jerry Briscoe's son. Now, Jerry and Arn are supposed to be in the corners of their respective sons. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get involved or what's going on. Now, Brock Anderson actually just got let go from AEW, and Arn Anderson didn't resign. So those two guys are, out there, and Brock is trying to get seen, maybe get picked up by the WWE or even a TNA. So that's going to be kind of cool. Let's see here. Let me see if I can't find that Lou Thesz one. There's so many papers, and what it is I got a list of everyone who is in the Hall of Fame and what title, what award they actually got. Now, other people that got that Frank Gotch Award, Dan Severn was one of them, Nikita Koloff, Penny Banner, Mick Foley. So these are like really, here's the Lou Thesz. But these are guys that put their time in to, and that's another great thing about this. It doesn't matter what organization you were in. If you're in WCW, NWA, WCCW, AWA, even back, because before Vern Gagne had his AWA, there was another AWA in the 1950s. And Lou Thesz was a champion of that organization too. So many different categories here too. So the Lou Thesz Award, that's an award that recognizes through professional wrestling industry who have used their skills in the realm of public service. So just to give you some of those guys, let's see here, John Bradshaw, matter of fact, he got it last year, I think. Edge, and Larry the Axe Hennig was one of them. But this year, the Lou Thesz Award is going to Tito Santana, which is another one of the SICW fans. There you go. You get the picture of Tito there. Now, Tito's getting it because after he retired from wrestling, he was a high school teacher. So he definitely did put his use to good skills, or his skills to good use, outside of wrestling. And he actually retired as a teacher as well. So he did definitely put those years in. And, Tito came in twice now, I think, for us. Once at the Belleville Fairgrounds, and then I think he came in for the Fan Fest too. So Tito is an awesome guy, a very respectable baby face in the business. I don't think he ever had a heel turn. I think he's always been one of those guys, and it's a very select few that was always a baby. You got Tito, and you got Sting, and you got like John Cena, Ricky Steamboat, but not that many beyond that.
And Belleville's own Bobby D, he's always been a baby face, haven't you, Bobby?
Nope. No, unfortunately.
I've probably been in bad guy longer than I've been a good guy.
From 4 years ago.
I've still been a bad guy longer than I've been a good guy.
Nathan,
You learn
if
something new
you,
about somebody every day, huh, Jim?
oh no, I knew that.
I
So
didn't. I thought he was a good guy.
the whole family of D's were all like bad guys, and then switched to being good for a couple months or so, and then as soon as they had you hooked, thinking that they were good, they right back to being a heel on you. Bobby's the only one that so far has not switched back.
So
But so far. Another award is the James C. Melby Award. And this one was, let's see here, it's, all right, so this is recognized for the excellence of professional wrestling on writing or historic preservation. Now, this was, if you want to toss up the picture for this one, it was the circle picture. Because it's actually off of his, no, not that one. It's off of his, it wasn't his Facebook one. I think it was off of his X profile. There you go, that guy right there.
Yeah.
And that guy is Al Getz, Getz. Now, he's a writer and a podcaster, but his main thing that he's given credit for is he's wrote 3 books about charting the territories. So he actually broke down the territory system, how it was back in the day, and he would write about each territory. So, you had, when the NWA was, actually alive and working, you had the Memphis territory, you had the Florida territory, you had Mid-South territory, and then you had the Seattle territory. Even New York technically was a territory system, even though it was always the WWF, and then they dropped a W and just became WWF. But at one point in time, even the WWF was part of the NWA, and it was kind of weird too, because Vince McMahon Sr., even when he broke away from the territory system of the NWA, he was still on the NWA board, which you would think if he broke away that he would not remain on the board, but he still was for some strange reason. And it wasn't until his son came along and actually, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, went ahead and, cut ties with everything and just went after, every single territory. But so he does a podcast about the territory system too. I've never got onto his podcast yet because this is the first time I'm hearing about him. But I'm actually looking forward to maybe purchasing some of his books this week because I love the old days of the wrestling. And in his books, it talks about their big matches in the territory and what they drew and how much money they brought in. And he goes into the finer details on each territory. So that's right up my alley. I want to, probably get all 3 if I can get them. But there's so much.
Territory system that how would be coming back.
according to this Lou Thesz Facebook post for the Hall of Fame, it's a 5-part series.
5-part series? That's even better.
More
now, Nathan, you're kind of breaking up, at least on my end. But did you say something about the territories trying to come back?
Yeah, I'd say it would be nice for you to reach out to him, see if he'll come on so we can talk about that. The territory system, how it was, and then what Billy is trying to bring it back to.
Right.
And we can compare. Also, his stories, because, to do that type of research had to take a very long time.
Oh, yeah. You figure a lot of, if it wasn't for Larry Matisek and Herb Simmons, Larry passing on and giving it all to Herb, even the St. Louis territory, thanks to Larry wrote down every single thing. You know, who won, well, who was going against each other, who won, what they won with, how long did it go. You know, and if it wasn't for Larry writing that stuff down, you know, we wouldn't know all the history of the St. Louis. Because back in the day, when Sam Mushnick had KPLR record the shows to save money, they just recorded over the same tape. So if it wasn't for Larry even thinking about recording what he did, you know, we would have lost it all, because Sam was, you know, so much of a budget guy that he didn't want to spend more money on buying new film to record the new show with, that they just constantly recorded over old tapes to save on the film. So
Yeah,
again,
because some of the film we have is so degraded that it takes a lot to try and get it ready to be uploaded, because when you upload it for broadcast, it degrades it still.
yeah, so I mean, just imagine what the difficulties this guy had on getting all the information he did from more than just one territory. So it's kind of
Mr.
crazy.
Getz, if you're listening, contact the Texan and we'll get you on.
Well, I might run into him this week, so I might bring that up to him and see if I can't get him to come on.
What's the dates for that Hall of Fame in Iowa?
So the dates is Thursday through Saturday, which I believe is the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th. I believe that's the correct. But it's always 3 days. You know, this would be my second year going to it. Last year, I was able to wrestle in the Thesz Battle Royal, which was still a great honor, just having Thesz attached to a wrestling match. It's kind of like the Bruiser Brody that we do. You know, we honor Bruiser Brody by having a Battle Royal when you win a trophy. They do the same thing over there, but they do it for Thesz. Now, we talked about how, you know, Bruiser Brody respected Thesz, and even, you know, had practices together down at the Belleville Fairgrounds, where Brody brought in Thesz, and because no, it was actually Thesz was kind of brushing up on his wrestling, because he had been retired for a while, and Japan, one of the promotions out there actually wanted to bring Thesz in for a special occasion. And so him and Bruiser, you know, battled a little bit at the Belleville Fairgrounds to try to get Thesz, you know, loosened up and warmed up for his matches over there. So,
And I'd love to have footage of that.
oh yeah. Another award is the Gordon Soley Award. You know, Gordon Soley. I don't know about Nate if you know him or not, but he was an announcer that was respected by every single wrestler back in the day. They always talked about how he knew the ins and outs of announcing and how they would have people sit next to him just to try to learn from him. And Jim Ross was one of the guys that got the opportunity to sit next to him and learn from. You know, of course, you know, then Jim Ross passed that down to other announcers, whether it be Jerry the King Lawler or Coach and people from the WWF. But the Gordon Soley Award is being Tony Schiavone. You got him up right there. So Tony Schiavone, you know, he was in the WWE for a small stint. And then the NWA, it might be reversed. It might have been the NWA first and went up to WWE for a small stint, but then came back to WCW. And now he's in AEW with Jim Ross. So it's kind of full circle for him, you know, again. But he is getting this award, and man, he's been dedicated to wrestling for so long. And, you know, he got basically trained by Jim Ross, who got trained by Gordon Soley. So it was a no-brainer for him to be a recipient of this award. So it'd be very cool, because this is one guy that I never got to meet yet. So I'm definitely going to meet him, and be kind of cool to sit down and pick his brain and everything else. So, people as well. So this was a recently new award, something they just recently started. And Jim Ross was one of the recipients of the award. And then Conrad Thomas was another one. Now, Conrad, he's a very well-known podcaster. He's the one that, does Ric Flair's podcast. Podcasts like ours, we got three people that bounce things off of. Well, Conrad is normally is the second to whoever the famous wrestler was. So he does Ric Flair's podcast. He does Arn Anderson's podcast. He did Jake the Snakes for a little bit. I think Jake is still under that umbrella, but he does it on his own now. Let's see here. He does Jim Ross's podcast. There's one other one too. Man, his brother is going in. Let me see if I can remember that guy. Tom Prichard. So Tom Prichard's brother, who is still currently in the WWE. I forgot his first name. Bobby, help me out here. What's Tom Prichard's brother's name? He played Brother Love. I can't believe I forgot his first name. Bruce Prichard. Got it. Bruce Prichard. Bruce Prichard was actually kind of like one of the first wrestling podcasts out there. Him and Conrad got that going, and no one knew that it was going to work because a lot of times, a lot of the legends don't like to tell stories on air because they don't like to air out the dirty laundry or air out stuff. Kind of like the Undertaker.
He's been doing a lot lately. I've been surprised.
Yeah, the Undertaker. It took the Undertaker retiring for him to actually start doing a podcast, and he's only done a couple so far. He's had the Godfather on. And he's had a couple other people on, but I think he's up to like 5 or 6 on podcasts.
He's even done some interviews where he's broken kayfabe a little bit, and that was always a no-no for him.
Yeah. That was the guy that lived his character on screen and off screen because he didn't want anyone to think that he wasn't, truly a dead man type of wrestler, so it's kind of crazy. So I already mentioned his name, Tom Prichard. He is picking up the Vern Gagne Award. Now, Vern Gagne, they started that one as a trainer award. So anyone who was a trainer and was able to produce a lot of people, they were up for the Vern Gagne Award. So this year, they're giving it to Tom Prichard. Of course, him and Kane have got that school down in Tennessee, and they practically worked on a lot of people. They worked with The Rock. They worked with Sheamus. A lot of people, famous people, wrestling-wise, have gone through his school. Let me see if I can see who else has got that award. Boris Malenko. So, the Malenkos. Boris was the one that trained a lot of people besides his sons. Let's see here. So Tom Prichard had his hands in training Kurt Angle, The Rock, Randy Orton. So he and his school is still up and running because I still know a lot of people to go down there and go to his school because his school is like 6 months long at a time. So you can go for 6 months and then come back. Most people that go down there try to find a job, because you're actually living there. There's no, going back and forth every night. You're basically, training to be a wrestler full time. All right, so we got the Vergania. Jack Briscoe. It's a Spotlight Award. And that's where they're just spotlighting a wrestler or an MM fighter, it's basically someone who's done great things for the wrestling community. And believe it or not, it is this guy right here, Tony Garea, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name, and it's
Carrera?
Garea. Now, Tony, I met him for the first time last year, and his wife, Mercy, is his wife's name. Now, I met them. We had breakfast together. I think it was the second night being there, and the second morning being there. And I had breakfast with those two. My wife was with me, and the president of the CAC. Actually, it was the vice president of the CAC because Brian Blair is the president. But we were sitting down and had a great conversation. We actually walked to this place together because everything in Iowa is so close together. The Hall of Fame is like 2 blocks from the hotel, and then the hotel is like 2 blocks from where one of the NWA offices was. And this, mom and pop little breakfast joint was in walking distance. So we walked there and had breakfast. And we just got into a great conversation. And Tony, he was a 3-time WWF tag team champion. And all 3 times is with a different partner. So he was the only regular person in the combination that actually made the tag teams. But him and his wife are such a nice couple. We've met them many a time since then. They've been to both, actually, not both. They've been to this last SICW Fan Fest Part 2. But I've met them at the CACs as well. And when I was in the hospital for my /stroke, type heart attack, him and his wife both reached out to me and was asking me how I was doing and saying they were praying for me, and that's how tight knit the wrestling family, or I hate to use the word brotherhood, but it's more of a family that you can make with certain people, and that's always a good thing. These people are Hall of Famers. And they're reaching out to me to make sure that I'm okay. And then when I ran into them at our Fan Fest Part 2, his wife immediately came up, and she warned me prior to seeing her that she was going to get a picture with me. And I was like, okay, fine, if I run into you. And she seen me and dragged me down and made sure she got a picture of me. And then she walked me over to her husband. And she goes, all right, he's here, yell at him. So he was talking to me about, how he doesn't take any medicines and he's on all naturalist. So he believes in cayenne pepper for, thinning your blood. And he believes in, drinking apple cider vinegar and all this combinations and macadamia nuts. And so he gave me a list for things to follow. To help me on my way of healing myself. So great people, and it's awesome that he's going into the Hall of Fame this year.
I'll say I'm looking at his tag team champions. I mean, he's teamed up with some hella names here too. When he was NWA World Tag Team Champion, he was with Pat Patterson. WWF, he was with Haystack Calhoun, Dean Ho, Larry Zbyszko, Rick Martel. Like, he's been some pretty good tag team partners.
Yeah. And even after he retired from the actual wrestling, he was a producer for WWF for one of the longest stints. He was Vincent McMahon's right-hand man until eventually, they always switch it up after so many years. You're never really a producer too long. But I think he had one of the longest stints of being one of the producers. basically the backstage guy that puts matches together and actually lets he it's kind of hard to explain, but wrestling matches have ups and downs where you can get the fans to come in and cheer for you and then boo the other guy. And he helps put that all together and make sure it's all within the time limit or whatever they got going on.
You set up matches that will hopefully bring fireworks between the two competitors.
Right. Now,
it does say his last major championship, though, that he won with Rick Martel was to beat the Moondogs.
Well, there you go. The Moondogs was a famous tag team from Memphis days. I don't think they ever worked in Mid-South. I could be wrong. Back in the day, they worked everywhere. But the Moondogs had that war with Jerry the King Lawler. And then, of course, one of the guys we talked about last week, Moondog Rover, the one that used to wrestle for MNWA, he was trained by one of the original Moondogs, too. So, yes, very cool. But yeah,
I'm looking at that list, and another very good friend of the podcast, Mr. James Beard's going to the Hall of Fame too. Looks like.
No, he is just.
Is he just scheduled to appear?
Guests.
Oh, just to appear.
Yeah, just to appear. Now, I'm not saying that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I haven't looked down this whole list yet to see everyone that's in it. But him and JBL are coming this year. Mark Henry is coming this year.
That man's going to be there, Mr. Frye.
Yeah, Mr. Frye. So that is actually the George Tragos Award winner this year. So he's going in under George Tragos. Now, George Tragos, that award is for wrestling and any other outside of wrestling sports. And Mr. Frye.
Bodybuilding award, dude. The frick shit house.
Well, so Mr. Frye, I actually looked him up because I knew he was in Pride. But he was I think he was the very first UFC champion.
The only guy I've ever seen submit somebody with a neck crank. Like, that's just raw power.
Yeah,
I was reading a story about him online, about how he submitted a guy by taking his chin and put it in the guy's eye socket and just drilling his chin into the guy's eye. And that forced the guy to tap out,
look at that look, though.
Well,
the neck crank the neck crank that he beat somebody with in UFC was as simple as you're in guard. He grabs you by the head, elbows in the chest, and just pulls your head down. Just like he wrenched on a guy's neck so hard that way. Most people can get out of that, but he was just so powerful that I'm done.
Right. So
I kind of did that when I was wrestling. I was taught a move. I think I talked to you about it before, Bobby. They call it the python. That's where you move the guy's neck and then just squeeze it down to cut off his windpipe, and then he just either passes out or taps. I won a lot of matches like that.
So, Mr. Frye, he started out, doing the freestyle wrestling, and then he moved on to UFC. Then he moved on to professional wrestling. He was in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he wrestled out there for a while. And then he moved on to Pride, because Pride was overseas mainly. So he was able to bounce between those two. So he is getting, like I said, he's getting the George Tragos Award.
Pride was, if I remember correctly, it was Pride MMA was based in Japan.
Yeah, so there you go. So he wrestled for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and then Pride, and then of course the UFC. So definitely a well-deserved person there. So I think
I've seen more matches of him in the UFC than anything else.
Yeah, so that is all 7. So Tito Santana, Tony Garea, the Al Getz, Tom Prichard, Arn Anderson, Tony Schiavone, and Dan Frye. Those are all 7 people that are going in this year. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better class than those guys. You know, so you had, you know, of course, Arn Anderson. Come on, he was part of the Four Horsemen, and his podcast is kicking ass too. I kind of fell off of his podcast because there's so many other podcasts now that are out that I'm trying to get a hold of and listen to. Because right now I'm on the Undertaker's podcast, but Jim Cornette does one, and it's always cool to hear his take on a lot of this stuff because he is a no bullshitter. He speaks his mind. But Arn Anderson, when he first came out, I was hooked on his. Ric Flair's had a podcast off and on, but you know, that's off the subject there. So yes, Arn Anderson, the Enforcer. I talk about his tag team a lot with the students at Ace Academy because I tell them to watch the Andersons wrestle when he tagged with Ole, or even when he tagged with the other Horsemen. Shoot.
Come on, Jericho.
Blanchard. So when he tagged with Ole, they were the very first Minnesota Wrecking Crew. And then, you know, Brock Lesnar and another guy picked up that name and ran with it. But Minnesota Wrecking Crew, they were so technical sound. And I tell the students to watch the matches because even as a tag team, they'll pick out a body part and they will work that one body, like the body part for the whole match. Regardless if they tagged in their partner, they work the same body part. So, you know, it's sometimes when you're working a tag match, you know, you work one guy's arm, the other guy's leg, and then they tag in and out so frequently that you forget what body part you're working on who. And to be so focused that they just took out the whole middle part. And it's like, if they're attacking your neck, both guys are being attacked on their neck. Same thing with the arms, the legs. And I put a couple of their videos out on the Ace Academy page on Facebook so some of the students would watch these matches because, Ole Anderson and even Gene, I think his name was Gene Anderson, those two were some badass people. And then Anderson came right along and filled in when Gene eventually retired. And then Tully Blanchard, you know, filled in when Ole retired. And back in the WWF, can't remember their name, but it was a great tag team up there too. And they only did a year or maybe it was 6 months stint up there. But they were managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan. And, you know, so they had an excellent manager. They were excellent tag team. So he's well deserved. Part of the Four Horsemen. Ain't no one better than that. So Tito Santana, you know, like I said, he's always been a fan favorite. You know, he was an excellent wrestler, part of Strike Force. You know, wrestled for AWA, WWF. You know, just a hell of a guy. And to be a teacher for so long and retire being a teacher, you know, giving back to the, you know, his community, you know, definitely deserved his award.
Yeah, nice guy. Everything I talked to him, nice guy.
Yeah, no complaints
Soft
about him.
spoken. Yeah, soft spoken too.
I think we brought this up before that when he came into Belleville and we had him at the show, like we just created a circle around him because he was, you know, some of the legends, you know, are not personable. They don't want to be spoken to. They don't want bullshit questions asked. Tito was not like that. Totally the opposite.
He said, like, you guys got questions? Pick my brain.
Right. And then he sat down and we all just sat around him and, you know, it was great. because we all had questions. We all picked his brain, and he stayed and answered all of them. So definitely a great guy there. Flip through another picture. Let's see if I can remember anything else about these gentlemen that's going in.
Well, we only have Kong, Tito.
I gave you all 7. So Tom Prichard, Bonnie Donna's, it was a makeshift tag team in the WWF, but Chris Candido was his tag partner, and of course Sonny was their manager. It was like a fitness tag team, one of those people that they try to get you into the fitness routine that they were doing. I've met Tom so many times. The last time I met him, I think was actually at the NWA 75. And he was so cool. It was so weird that at the NWA, when they came to St. Louis, a lot of them were just standing, leaning against the wall during the show. Our good friend Haku was just sitting down against the wall. Of course, he was watching his son-in-law Tyrus, wrestle. But Tom Prichard, hands down, he's been a trainer for a long time. And I know a lot of the students that come from his school, top notch. Can't say much of anything else about him. He's just a great guy. And I think you're going to flip to Tony again. Like I said, hands down, him and his wife are the coolest people to be, a legend in the WWF. And to be so down to earth and care about an independent wrestler so much. I'm going to reach out to him this week and maybe get him on a podcast, because I know he hasn't done a podcast in forever. Then all of a sudden last week, I seen him pop up on a podcast. And I think there's a lot of questions that the host didn't ask. So I would love to get him on a podcast and see if we can't get more in detail about his career and his life backstage from the WWF. Or for that matter, you said the NWA, he was the champion too. So.
And my grandfather on the German side was a firm believer in everything Tony is, with apple cider vinegar, raw honey, cayenne pepper, all that crap. Hell, I put cayenne pepper on my Caesar salad, well, pretty much on everything because of that.
Well, he is from New Zealand. And over there, he said they are so strict on everything. Like, if you're not, say like a toaster here or a microwave here that you always keep plugged in, you can't keep that stuff plugged in. You recycle every single thing. Let's see here. There is no like watering your grass. That stuff is all secret. From what he told me, it's a beautiful place and it's up. It's kept up great. But it's kind of strict on things. But I think we kind of need some of that here.
It's called discipline, and that's what's lacking.
Right. My wife was talking about this yesterday. You train, not you train, but you try to teach your kids the right way to do things. And try to help them as they grow up in life. And, not to toss my son's car problem back into this, but, you teach them how to do things, and then you help them out, get in their first car loan, get in their first car, and then working to pay off the car and stuff like that. And then some other punk with no respect, steals the car. That's, and from what I heard, the cops do kind of know 2 of these people because they're repeat, car thieves. but they are minors, and so even if they do get caught, they're still going to be punished as minors instead of this car ring thing that they got going on because they've been doing it for a while, evidently. But that's how I keep getting unfocused on this stuff. Tony, awesome guy.
Tony is a great. Well, sounds like a great guy. I wouldn't know that.
Yes.
Haven't met him. Would like to meet him. So.
Well, you might have ran into him at the Fan Fest because they stayed both nights. They were there Friday and Saturday, so you probably see them walking around, or they were at their tables signing pictures and everything.
Yeah, but I was busy doing the director producer thing, and I was with Jimmy Hart the whole time, and then Bob Orton and Randy Orton and all that stuff, and then the Scorpion. So if I did talk to him, I'm not going to remember too many. But we are running short on time. We're going to try and keep it to an hour because Jim has to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? We have about a minute left.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very long day. Tomorrow's going to be a long day, too. Tuesdays are my longest days because besides working, it's also my day to train the new students at the ACE Academy. And pretty much as soon as I get off of work, I go straight there. And, we might go until 9. We might go until 10. Shoot, there was one night that we almost went until 11. So it's one of those things that when you're in the middle of teaching certain moves or having a great match, you go a little longer. So it's normally my longest day. But this is a picture of all the people that's going to be there this week.
And we recommend everybody going to, scanning the QR code, getting that $150 all access, and then make sure when you get there, you tell them Jim Hoffarth at the Squared Ring is the reason why you're there.
Well, that's only going to work out for the guys to see this early Thursday and could be around Waterloo, Iowa, because literally when this comes out, you will have that day to go and buy your stuff and go there. But it can be done. And some people don't buy the whole package that they offer. Some people just go there for that wrestling show because all the legends, kind of like our Fan Fest, but they smash it into one. So they have all the legends are kind of like around the brick and mortar of the building and the wrestling going on at the same time. So you can, watch the wrestling, get an autograph, stuff like that. But some people just go for that day. I myself, I love wrestling stories, and to see the inductee or the inductor talk about the person that they're inducting, I say that more than twice. Hearing that story of why they deserve to be in there, and then see them get up there and tell the road stories, and that's the best part. Plus, we get to break bread with them. Last year Bill DeMott was one of the award winners, and his story about his daughter dying in a car crash she got hit by a drunk driver, and now that is his life right now. He goes around and he speaks on the teenage drinking and driving, and how it really impacts families and friends, and how it shouldn't be done, and that's his thing that he does now. So that's kind of cool. I never heard that. I never heard any of that. All I heard, knew from Bill DeMott was his WCW days, and being Hugh Morgus, and being the trainer for the WWE, doing the Tough Enough series, and I liked Bill from the Tough Enough series, but to hear that he lost a daughter in a car accident due to a drunk driver, and that he has like done a 180 from the wrestling world into being a speaker on that on that situation. That was just overwhelming, and I was so glad that I got to meet him. Me and Gary Jackson got our pictures taken with him. That was just a highlight of that year, among
Some
other
tragedy
things.
to a positive, helping other people. Good thing to
Definitely
go out.
did. Definitely did. Bruce Prichard was telling a hell of a lot of stories that night because he was one of the inductors. He inducted Conrad, the podcaster I was talking about, and it was just great listening to all that. And I think the whole 3 days is so different, and Bobby can speak on the CAC, and we'll probably do one of these next month for the CAC because that's coming up. But this one's a little bit different than the CAC. It's not in Vegas for one, so it's not crazy and wild or anything like that. But it's more intimate, I think it is. Because you're sitting there, fancy dinner, listening to these stories, watching them get inducted, and you're hanging out with these guys all night. And then, later on, you're going down to the hotel bar and they're in there, and then we're all on this big table and, drinking together, telling more stories. It's so cool. I do recommend both of you hitting it up. Maybe next year, all three of us to get together because they do, like I said, they do a day of podcasting where it's like a podcast seminar. A whole bunch of podcasters get on and they explain what they do, what their niche is in the wrestling world, and how it's worked for them. And every year they invite more podcasters to do this.
Well, maybe next year we'll have enough people that like and subscribe. They'll invite us and we'll go.
Yeah, definitely. That would be cool. And, they knew I was a podcaster last year and they kind of talked to me about it, but, I felt that we were too new to like come back and automatically be like, this is how you do it. This is what we do, but by next year, we're going to be 3 years in. We kind of know what we're doing now.
Well, speak for yourself.
Hopefully
I'm
the
serious.
audience likes
I have no idea
we're
what to do.
Yeah, but yeah, so I'm sure next Monday when we record again, I'll have a lot of feedback and maybe some videotape, and definitely Nate, fill that, play that video, maybe in the beginning or the end, because that museum is so cool and definitely well deserved to walk through. Both sides, the professional and the amateur style wrestling, it's just a nice, Bobby would have fun because he would know people on both sides, besides the Kurt Angle and the Brock Lesnar. But it's definitely a place to come and visit. It's nice having a brick and mortar Hall of Fame, because WWE doesn't even have that. Of course, we have a traveling Hall of Fame that we can set up. But it's not a brick and mortar yet. We've talked to Herb. Herb has said that he wants to have it, and eventually, hopefully, when he has time and finds the right building and the right location, we can have a St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame brick and mortar building. That would be so cool, especially with all of Larry Manasik's stuff and Herb's stuff,
And Brody.
because I know. He's got belts now from old NWA people, whole outfits. So he can definitely have a nice museum. And just got to find that right building. The cost is, cheap enough that we can take it over and really outdo itself. So be awesome. But again, we're going to wrap this up. So please like, comment, share, subscribe. If you don't like us, let us know. We'll try to fix Bobby's hair and Nate's
I did my hair
makeup
today.
that he puts on every week. Or tell us what we're doing great and what do you like about it. We'd love to hear both sides. But either way, subscribe so we can get up to that 500 mark. We're still so damn close, but yet so far away. And we need you to help move us in the algorithm in the right way and keep pushing us forward. But from everyone at the Squared Circle, I hope you had a good evening.
No.
What? You told me to wrap it up. What you got next? Oh, Squared
We
Circle.
are not the
Is that what I
Squared
said?
Circle.
Woo. From the Squared Ring Podcast.
There you
That's
go.
better.
Please have a awesome night, awesome day.
Kill my heart.
If you type in the Squared Ring, there's another YouTube channel called the Squared Ring. So you literally have to type in the Squared Ring Podcast to get us to pull up. So please do that. And please subscribe to us because the other Squared Ring looks like it's from years ago, and they have less subscribers than us. But I would hate for some people to subscribe to them thinking that it's us. So, Squared Ring Podcast. All right, you guys have a good weekend, and I will give you an update next Monday. All right, adios.
All right, enjoy your weekend. See ya.